Excuse me. Great. All right. The time is now 8:01 p.m. on this great Garvey Day, August 22nd, 2025. You are on Freedom Friday Forum, brought to you by the Woodson Banneker Jackson Bay Division, UNIA-ACL Rehabilitating Committee 2020. And tonight, we have Dr. Koko, Dr. Rasayon.
Yeah, it's me.
Oh, Niyana, Rasayon. My goodness, something is happening, but I'll read out and then let you go, my brother. We shall start now with the and welcome, folks. Let me say welcome. My name is mostly much similar. We shall start here now with the official UNIA pledge, the flag, as our opening ritual, and we will follow that preamble of the Constitution. I commit my body, mind, and spirit to the protection, defense, and security of the red, black, and green. I dedicate my life to the redemption of Mother Africa and the liberation of her scattered black children. I accept for myself and my descendants the teachings of universal African nationalism, and I promise that our children will be instilled with the purpose and knowledge of themselves as African people, in order that the cause of our struggle will neither falter nor fail until all black people are free and united through one God, one aim, one destiny. On the preamble of the UNIA-ACL Constitution, this preamble of the Constitution is what we stand on. It's our foundation as the UNIA-ACL. It's in the Constitution. The Constitution itself is the greater part of the foundation. And we walk in the footsteps of the great Marcus Mosiah Garvey. The Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League is a social, friendly, humanitarian, charitable, educational, institutional, constructive, and expansive society, and is founded by persons desiring to the utmost to work for the general uplift of the Negro Black peoples of the world, and the members pledge themselves to do all in their power to conserve the rights of their noble race and to respect the rights of all mankind, believing always in the brotherhood of man and the fatherhood of God. The motto of the organization is one God, one aim, one destiny. Therefore, let justice be done to all mankind, realizing that if the strong oppresses the weak, confusion and discontent will ever mark the path of man. But with love, faith, and charity towards all, the reign of peace and plenty will be heralded into the world, and the generations of man shall be called blessed. And that is our opening ritual. And since I'm in a position here where I think I'll need a lot of water, I'll hand this over to my good brother, Baba Senghor Baye.
Yeah, greetings everybody. So I just want to do the pledge real quick and welcome our brother Koko in. But I commit my body, mind, and spirit to protection, defense, and security of the red, black, and green. I dedicate my life to the redemption of Mother Africa and the liberation of her scattered black children. I accept for myself and my descendants the teachings of universal African nationalism, and I promise that our children will be instilled with the purpose and knowledge of themselves as African people in order that the cause of our struggle will neither falter nor fail until all black people are free and united through one God, one aim, one destiny, and one Africa. And I want to also bring on my brother right away because I know he's got a lot that he's going to share. I ask everybody to please stay muted unless you're going to be speaking once it's opened up. And my brother Koko, you could come on live now if you're with us. And I want to thank you for attending the 67th International Convention for our public event that we did a tribute to Marcus Garvey. Everybody is raving about that, but I try to let people know that you're a regular with us. You are our Garveyite professor, and we won. We've been one for a while, but we all are carrying the spirit of our ancestors, and that's so important. And I know you're going to drop the science and you're going to bring that ancestral energy forward, what I like to call our Blacktricity. So without any further ado, my brother, Professor Koko.
Hotep, do I have decent audio?
Yes.
Well, as always, I'm honored to come in and share whatever's channeled through me when certain things are pulled together. Moving forth, however, before I continue to make my thoughts audible, I'd like to ask those people that may be on the platform over the age of 65 on this planet, 6.5 decades plus, to give me permission to keep speaking.
Absolutely, my brother. You have it
Okay.
from me.
My boy over there in the corner, Baba Mosi. You with me, Baba? Oh, and by the way, I'm not going to touch what we talked about before because I'm assuming we're on air now, right? But we need to have a think tank about that, brother. You feel me? And I mean that issue in general. I'm going to see if I can actually open up my screen because, as you know, I need my screens. And with that in mind, I want you to know this time I'm going to choose to give you guys a bit of probably a 3.5 to 4 minute narrative because of what we will be discussing before I take that deep dive into those slides. So, with that in mind, I'm going to ask the barber to allow me to share my screen. And I hope it's the one that's right here that's going to pop open for me. And let me know when you can actually see it. And when it does pop open, we're going to go ahead and do our
It's
thing,
open.
right?
It's open, Baba.
So you see it?
Yes, sir.
All right, Barbara. So we're in place now. You should see Africa with an incredibly intense strand of blood running across the continent, the right side of the screen. I think that's what you should see right about now. Okay.
It's there. It's there.
All right. So again, I want to make sure that I give all honors and respect to the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey because you guys know we would definitely not be having this chat in this vein if it was not for the kind of energy that this brother conjured and allowed to channel through him. Around the same time, vanilla people were tripping out about the Titanic, he had in place the Black Star Line. And interestingly enough, the brother was taking care of business so well that they had to come up with some, I'll call it fake news of the day, talking about taxes and some financial things in order to literally try and take that brother from the throne of doing what he was doing. But as you always say, Baba Singor, I mean, you know, this blacktricity, you cannot stop blacktricity from moving. So with that in mind, let's see if we can't take this dive and handle. I want to see what's on my screen here. Maybe that's going to go away, but it doesn't matter to me at the moment. So here we are, brother. Last time I was speaking to you guys, it was my honor and privilege to be over at A Life to talk to you about the things that we discuss. And you may note that this particular exchange we're going to have this evening is going to dovetail and expand on how it will relate to the new face of reality, the 21st century, and colonialism. So when you see sleight of hand in the new faces of war, you're going to find that we're going to talk about that. And for a few people that maybe from time to time trying to get a peek at my website, it's right there at the corner of the screen, as well as my email address. And as you guys know, because we're family, I am always 100% open for people to communicate with me via an email, and you can even take a peekaboo dive at the website. So with that in mind, take a look what you see happening in the midst of the palms of the hands that you see on the screen because that represents eumelanin and pheomelanin. And as you see, the eumelanin, which is closer toward the center, and the actual pheomelanin is closer toward the right, toward my image in near Africa, it's a less sophisticated chain of melanin. And believe it or not, that's what this war is all about, to try and control and redirect melanin dominant people. So let's take this dive right into what we're going to discuss. Colonialism and kangaroo courts in the 21st century. I'm going to repeat that because, as I said, in a moment, I'm going to start reading something to you. And the reason why I'm going to read it to you is because it has so much substance. And you guys know how swiftly I go through slides sometimes. I want to anchor you with a context for everything that we'll be talking about this evening. Colonialism and kangaroo courts in the 21st century. And so just to summarize that, because I'll repeat it again a little later, but with different words about the kangaroo court and colonialism, I want you to note that you see just beneath in the 21st century, you see ad hoc settings with made up laws, typically backed up by mercenaries or military forces to rob countries and people of their resources and sovereign rights with no due process, enforceable by any entity in pursuit of justice. Like what you hear now happening in the news about the world court's going to do this with the jinn and the quote unquote being that's disconnected from our humanity over in the Middle East. I typically refer to him as Yahoo rather than literally dropping his name for the meta tags to say you actually spoke about him. He's literally already on the place identified under the same rubric as Putin because he's been literally pointed out to be committing crimes against humanity and genocide. So let's use this particular slide to talk to you to set the foundation so we can weave colonialism into that reality as it relates to the 21st century. All of you guys are familiar with columbite tantalite, also known as coltan. One of the most coveted resources today on this planet. And even though a few other places constitute the other breakdown of 20% that's left, about 80% of coltan is coming out of Central Africa, out of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And so what you need to be mindful of, because you may not know, coltan is almost synonymous to an organic melanin outside of the body growing from the earth. And it's so sophisticated, particularly when you modify it with some nanoparticles and put it on a little strip to allow it to interface with the interface in your smart cars, your smartphones, your aircraft. Coltan, it has consciousness. But people don't want to tell you it has consciousness because they are selling it. As a matter of fact, if we had this much coltan that you see on the screen, which I would say would be like a complete full tablespoon or 2 tablespoons, everybody on the platform now could get themselves a house. You follow me? A house. I don't mean a $200,000 house. I mean a house. The way they process the coltan. But what they will do with the people that are actually pulling the coltan from the earth by these denizens, I mean, these people that you see highlighted here, they're paying these people less than pennies for the coltan that they're giving them. So that's back to me talking to you about colonialism and the thievery tied to it and how they put in place certain mercenaries and military resources to basically keep you in check so you cannot speak up or they will permanently figure out a way to shut you up. So this is why this graphic is so important for us to understand what I'm about to read to you. And on the right, you can see them robbing the hell out of continental Africa, and you can see the minerals, the plane. Plane probably couldn't even fly worth a damn if they didn't have coltan somehow connected to the towers and things that they're using to communicate. So I just want you to know, this particular compound, columbite tantalite, it is basically maybe 5,000 times the value of gold or yellow diamonds, all right? I want you to let that sink in. It has that kind of value, particularly when they process it and do what they are going to do with it. So as you see on the left, you can see them robbing the continental Africa, robbing the hell out of people. And here you can see them doing the same thing. So let's just see where this goes when we talk about kangaroo courts, because kangaroo courts become the forum where they get together to make decisions about how they are going to rob resources from places that do not have a quote unquote military comparable to engage with their military. And one of the reasons why people in continental Africa, we're not a violent people. We are not a violent people, so we don't spend all our time with resources trying to make weaponry. And if we did engage in something like that, we would have to be as secretive as the people that you saw in Wakanda. Are you following me? You couldn't be like the silliness in Zamunda, all right? Because you know what happened to Eddie Murphy's character when he came to Harlem or the Bronx, wherever he was. He was on, what's the city where everybody goes to look for the Queens? They just robbed him as soon as he got there. And the vanilla people would do the exact same thing. And you see that happening when they showed you Wakanda 2, and they, not Wakanda 2, Black Panther 2, and you saw them basically trying to rob and steal the stuff for them, and they got busted in the process. So let's take this dive right now into understanding what this means. I said I was going to have to read something to you. So before your eyes become focused on a series of slides, let us clarify the jargon and language needed to effectively communicate as our preamble. Colonialism is alive and well today. It is the new menu of how human affairs are controlled in America. If you're unclear of what this means, imagine the return and active military support to reinforce apartheid. Essentially, the Gestapo tactics by the hands of hired mercenaries and bounty hunters to detain and jail people through hearsay and digital kangaroo courts. That's what's happening at this very moment on the streets of America. We have these people floating by, they look at their little devices to see if they got a general biometric of the person they're looking for, and then they just snatch them like a body snatcher from the street. And so you're now living in that world, dealing with systematic acts of terrorism by government assigned body snatchers. Most of many who they don't even identify themselves. And they're taking people from the streets of Washington, D.C., deporting them from the nation's capital as a prelude to what is planned to occur throughout America has become so routine that it is considered normal. Now, you have to be mindful of the optics and the symbolism of that, because the symbolism, the optics of that is the average person that's not around the nation's capital, they see this happening in Washington, D.C., particularly their news that they get on their local station and the news that they may get from MSNBC or CNN news, because they don't get Al Jazeera news anymore. They're going to conclude like, damn, if they can do that in Washington, what can they do to us? They've already shown you they've snatched a congressman here and there, jacked them up in public, mayors being jacked up. So they're letting you know that they are in place to do anything they want to do. In the meantime, I'm sure you guys remember Opie, Ron Howard, the adult grown-up kid from Mayberry of the Andy Griffith Show. I'm bringing this up to bring something to your attention. He has a new film based on a true story that takes the viewer on a journey dissecting the nature of melanin recessive humans, so-called white people in the movie. And I'm mentioning this to you because the movie is called Eden. And you know, Eden is associated with creation and all of that symbolism. But Opie, or i.e. Ron Howard, is letting you know how these people that identify as white really act when they're in an environment they think they have total control. They show you who they are. Simultaneously, there's another movie being released called Checkpoint Zoo. And it's a docudrama about animals being terrorized in the Ukrainian or Russian war. I know people say Ukraine, but vanilla people say stuff incorrectly so wrong that we just go along with it. It's just like Turkey is Turkey and it's not Turkey, okay? So when you take it to the next level, they're having you look at what's happening to the animals in those war-torn parts of the world related to the Ukrainian people and how they're rescuing the animals. So make a note now. They're making a movie about what's happening to the animals and them being rescued. And Ron Howard is releasing a movie about how vanilla people act when they're isolated in a place that they think they have total control over. So I'm bringing this up for the other reason to bring to your attention. We get distracted. And then that becomes the narrative. And before we leave, I'm going to show you that slide again about how we value animals and how we devalue people, particularly melanin-dominant humans. Now, the current national U.S. news reports that Governor Gavin Newsom, or some people say Gavin Newsom of California, he referred to the U.S. current president, quote, as an invasive species. That's what Newsom said, the governor of California. So I don't want people to think I said it. It's in quotes. He referred to the Donald as an invasive species. All right. So while we're captured by distractions and sensationalism about your Damien from the Omen residing at 1600 Black Lives Matter Plaza, aka Pennsylvania Avenue, next to Zero Optics, a news display, who is exterminating people that look like us. Exterminating people that look like us. These people are being exterminated. Decimated meaning when you systematically get rid of a few hundred thousands of them. But when you exterminate them, you moved into the arena of taking millions of people off the planet. Now I have to evoke John Lewis because when I start talking to you guys like this, you may not realize it. The semester has already started, so I'm about to walk that walk and get in good trouble. Because somebody has to get into some good trouble. Now check this out. Meanwhile, well-trained academics are marginalized to embrace the illusions of their success and laudable agendas to achieve. Kudos for making efforts to hopefully make a difference. While the NAACP, the Urban League, the Congressional Black Caucus have been cast as the actors in I'm Going to Get You Sucker 2.0. And if you've ever seen the movie I'm Going to Get You Sucker, you remember the brother that had the vanilla spouse and they had the little kids. He was offering them bean pie and bean sodas. And the brother say, hey, what happened to the true revolutionaries? He said they got government jobs. So they were no longer revolutionaries. They got government jobs. So as you process what I'm telling you, I want you to tune in to what I mean when I say that we have accepted their muted roles of reciting in silent meditation the mantra from Marvin Gaye's hit, What's Going On, released January 21st, 1971. These people are sitting back. I'm talking about Congressional Black Caucus, the Urban League, the NAACP. That's why I told you when Garveyites, when the people got together for the UNIA over at Everlasting Life or A Life, you saw the numbers, and you know it doesn't take anything but a well-read squad to do some serious recon to let people know what's going on. In the meantime, at this very moment, the good old boys billionaire cartel and covens of greedy, rabid, brain-damaged warlocks and witches of melanin-recessive pseudo-humans, they're getting together to generate what we're referring to undermining our constitutional right to make our vote count and be heard with that fancy word called gerrymandering. So they're rewriting the laws. They had some guidelines of how they were going to use that particular peekaboo modification to get things done the way they wanted them to get done. But the current administration said, we're just going to do it when we feel like it. Back to me telling you about how your sovereign rights are being undermined. So that circle of billionaires, and I'm calling them a coven of warlocks and witches, because if you say something about warlocks and witches to the average church-going black person, they'll say that's Hollywood. You don't know that these people actually engage in some things that will blow your mind. All right? So when you look at this circle of jinns or demons doing exactly what I told you, I want you to pull this memory up in your mind. If you've ever seen Game of Thrones, you probably saw this Ice Age looking group of people called White Walkers. I'm going to mention them again. White Walkers have reanimated and morphed from the series of Game of Thrones into the real world as soldiers of the 21st century purge. They're here. These folks snatch people from the street and they don't even drop an ID. Some of them have been identified as covering up their ID. As arms of the current state, politicians and media organizations are activating rubber band guidelines beneath the rubric of perpetual lies presented to you as discussions about democracy, which the Sky People, First Nations, warned us of an Hopi and Navajo prophecy. The Hopi, or some people say Hopi, but the Hopi and the Navajo, they prophesied these were going to be the days of the judgment. Now I'm going to insert something here that's not in the next page for me to actually explain to you. I know you guys are familiar with what they did to the First Nation people at the Trail of Tears, what they did with the water supply. And I know you are familiar with all the things that they have done to these people to put them on reservations and strip them of their identity. All those types of things were done to these people. And as they did those types of things, you didn't see any media coverage. And as a matter of fact, what was taking place on American television was old Vanilla brother John Wayne, and they had movies with cowboys and Indian, and Johnny Weissmuller being Tarzan, misrepresenting the continent of Africa, making you think that the entire continent was a so-called jungle. And those of you that have been to the continent, you know you can go to places in the continent of Africa, and you're like, damn, you think you, and all of that money that was shifted to Dubai with a number of things that were stolen from that part of the world because you haven't been there. So you got this misconception about the continent, oblivious to the fact that there are 54 countries there. And I'm not even going to tell you how many languages because I'm not able to tell you. So look, the civil rights attorney, Ben Crump, is one of the few voices loud enough to be heard in the pursuit of justice in America's long-standing kangaroo courts. Some of you probably heard of a Vanilla brother had a television series called Perry Mason, all right? So right now you need Raymond Burr and Thurgood Marshall, civil rights attorney, to form partnerships in a law firm to convict the two most visible murderous beings masquerading as humans on your planet today. Because I keep telling you guys, I just made a reference. Where's the NAACP? Where's the Urban League? Where's the Congressional Black Caucus? I left out the Divine Nine. I may talk about them briefly later. You know, the Greek fraternities with conscious black folk and conscious black women. If they don't have time made available to them on major networks, as big as those organizations are, they could take out an op-ed in any major newspaper they want to make a statement about Marvin Gaye's classic song from January 1971. What's going on? What's going on? What's happening, baby? What's going on? And nobody's telling anybody anything. In the meantime, we are scared as I don't know what. So, moving forward, throughout Central Africa and proximal countries of the continent, Haiti and Gaza, the pillars of genocide are positioned and advertised in plain sight for all eyes and media entities to see. Also to be acknowledged, an isolated few among us are dancing to our own self-composed music, personal egos of narcissism, and illusions of prosperity, our world travel, and how many times we've been to the continent of Africa on an occasional visit to walk around the motherland, and then we come back and talk about our trips with our little things that we picked up, but we don't do any work when we get back on the ground. And that's why Pan-Africanism is all about, for the brothers and sisters that knew what Marcus Mosiah Garvey stood for. As a matter of fact, Malcolm got his teeth sinked into the reality of the world when he processed what happened to his daddy, who was a bona fide embracer of Garvey. And that was a foundation that allowed Malcolm to rediscover his identity. So when you process what I'm telling you, let's give a tribute. And as I give the tribute, I'm just going to name a few people, and you can say in the back of your head, Ashe, Amen, or whatever you want to say, because we need to acknowledge and evoke this energy, because this energy is here. We just have forgotten how or neglected to tap into it, all right? The Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and even Noble Drew Ali was talking about Islam for the messenger that basically set the stage for founding the Nation of Islam that Farrakhan is now navigating, all right? Noble Drew Ali was around. And the brother that was a high yellow brother, Mohandas Gandhi, all right? And you guys don't even know, ahimsa didn't mean sit back and be passive. Martin was using a type of, it looked like passivity, but Martin Luther King was not a passive brother. That was the story they had to pitch in front of the media so folk wouldn't go off the rails. And Patrice Lumumba, Nelson Mandela, Miriam Makeba, Mama Africa, Winnie Mandela, El Haj Malik El Shabazz, aka Malcolm X, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Barbara Jordan, Shirley Chisholm, Muhammad Ali, Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, Curtis Mayfield, James Brown, Afena Shakur, Angela Davis, Cesar Chavez, and Dolores. I don't want to screw up her name because my Spanish is not going to get the phonics right for her. Huerta, all right? Sounding out these names intends to remind you the organizations get things done. Remember your brother Toure, Kwame Ture, also referred to by the label that he inherited as Stokely Carmichael. The brother's thesis was, you need an institution or an organization. Nobody expects you to overthrow this U.S. government, but you do need to do the best you can to be accountable, to do the best you can to protect your children and your family and yourself. And that does not mean just sitting around every now and then spitting a poem. It means if your poem has a message in it, act on the lyrics in your poetry. Because you guys may not know, anytime I come to you guys with a presentation, I didn't just pull together some slides from my files. I tailor whatever I'm sharing with you to whatever the message is that we are discussing. And it's not something that's pulled together in 10 or 15 minutes. It's hours behind this stuff. And so I repeat to you, we are at war. Far too many words are spoken. The rhythms of drums are often played to synchronize our hearts and evoke movement in our hips, and summon dance in our feet and mantras from our lips, while the truth must always be made clear. We are at war. And I'm telling you, I'm always outside the box and walking the plank with passive aggressive Negroes trying to shove me in the water and hoping that most aggressive albino shark will show up and do something. That nemesis from the oceans of yesteryear, Moby Dick, another albino or white whale that was crazy as hell. And I'm going to throw this little reminder in the equation. Anytime you hear stuff about bears hibernating, they usually drop on you. The only bear that you guys probably remember that was a cute, polite, kind bear was Yogi Bear, which you probably picked up as animation in cartoons. And Yogi Bear was smarter than the average bear, and he was just getting picnic baskets. And the contrary to the lies that you hear about brown bears and black bears being so damn aggressive and attacking people at random, they won't bother you unless you are somewhere proximal to their cubs and they've come out of hibernation and they're trying to mate again, then you're in their territory. But the most aggressive, violent, carnivorous bear on the planet, do you all know the bear I'm talking about? He's a white bear. And that white bear is called a polar bear. And they'll talk to you about how the polar bear swims, but they won't tell you how damn violent that damn bear is, okay? That is one aggressive, violent ass bear, okay? And so here we are with the anchors. Welcome to America's Kangaroo Courts. I guarantee you, the few people that are here, they know someone personally, either in their family or in their circle, that probably had a turnabout in one of America's Kangaroo Courts. All right? You know the Kangaroo Court, so let me tell you what the Kangaroo Court is before we dive into it again. And this vanilla brother here, he changes gears more than a Ferrari with whatever side of the street he's going to be on. You feel me? And he is as old as dirt, all right? And it's just like when Biden left. Biden was so old that he didn't even remember what his job was, but the Democrats sat back and allowed it to go on and on and on. And I ain't got no hate for the brother, because remember this, if you cannot remember anything else I'm telling you about our system of governance in this country, because I'm talking to you now in general about kangaroo courts. They are the enforcers of when you snatch people that don't have big money and deep pockets, right? So, the First Nation people have something that's similar to an axiom, or similar to what you would call, when we recite those little poems and proverbs around Kwanzaa, the great eagle, the American eagle, has two wings. One wing is for the Democrats, one wing is for the Republicans. But as your Salaji brothers and sisters, the Cherokee Nation, and some of the Navajo and some of the Hopi Indians will say to you, you know that bird is flying and he's using both wings every time he takes flight. And one of the most prized feathers for a chief among the larger tribes, descendants of the Algonquin Nation, the people of the Longhouse, if you had the feather of the eagle, because that was the great bird. But they will tell you one wing is Democrat, one wing is Republican, and they are on the same bird. And every time we have an election, brown and black people, you know, you have to choose between the less of two evils. So you choose, and I'll admit that I'm registered to vote. And, you know, I will vote for whoever the quote unquote less of the two evils is. I remember one time people were cracking jokes, some of my Middle Eastern friends, and they said to me, when you're voting for your president, it's like choosing between two STDs. Which one do you want? Do you want the mild STD, or do you want the STD that's going to incubate in your body for a long time? And someone else made a metaphor and analogy when the current occupant of 1600 Black Lives Matter Plaza was running for president, when he actually became the quote unquote president, and Dr. Francis Cress Welsing predicted, they said, who are you going to vote for? Are you going to vote for that person in the pants that has a pocket knife or a K-bar on her hip? Or you're going to vote for the dude that's carrying a katana long sword? Either way, you're going to get cut or you're going to get sliced. And I want to be clear about that. I'm not cynical about the country, but I am, as the brother pointed out, we must deal with the reality and the sign of the time. So what is a kangaroo court? It's a bogus court, the intention of which is to provide the illusion of a fair justice system where none exists. A mob of self-appointed tribunal that mocks society's principles of law or human rights. That's Americanism. Literally. People were mad as hell with Johnny Cochran when Johnny Cochran did his thing around the OJ trial. And America was so upset about the outcome that they got OJ a little later, and they stole OJ's stuff, and they were all happy as hell when their brother that used to do the commercials for Hertz Rent-A-Car, because he was a bad Buffalo running back. And as soon as he got caught up in that chaos that surrounded his immediate life circle, even after the court said that, hey, if the glove don't fit, you must acquit. And people were mad as hell. America was polarized like you wouldn't believe for months after that. And I'm not implying what the outcome should have been. I'm just letting you know now, when you see these people with these kangaroo faces on here, I'm letting you know at this very moment, your Supreme Court justices have been so manipulated that you can't even depend on them to do anything that will collectively represent justice, because there's 9 of them. It should be 11 of them. But I want you to know that the power of those justices is tied to those black robes. And those black robes mean they have the power to go into dark spaces and debate about what really goes on with constitutional law and tweak the law according to however they decide to vote. And that's why the Donald stacked the Supreme Court justices with people that had a personal allegiance to him. So when I tell you about kangaroo courts, you don't need to be thinking about district court or the circuit court. You need to be thinking about the Supreme Court, because that's the court that actually down in Texas, they allowed those people to come up with those new 5 districts so they could carve out where the vote would go. And that's why the Don was so pissed off with Nisa, with Gavin from California, because he said, yo, I don't even know what kind of species of person you are, but what you're doing, we can do better, because California is a big state. So I'm bringing this to your attention because I don't want you to entertain the thought that I'm telling you ignore voting, but I just want you to know that sometimes you have to become actively involved in what's happening in your community and get people to speak up for you as a representative in your community. And you need to learn how to support your elders and the people that really speak up for you and come to their aid when somebody says some wild Twilight Zone crap about them. So it's the reason why I put these kangaroos here. I want you to know kangaroo courts mean that whatever they feel like doing for a moment, they will do. And all you have to do is meet a chip out in California, a California highway, interstate police, the chip, and they'll tell you that they are the judge and the jury because they have the badge and the firearm. And if you don't do as they say or what they say, you might become a memory before you make it home. Now, I want to give a shout out and credit to the brother Stephen Hayes for developing this when he was a SCAD student. This was his sculptural thesis at the Maison Mutter Gallery, down from the, I think from the ATL. And I added this little stuff here about the cash crop. And why am I adding it here? Because we're talking about jurisprudence and the lack of justice on a planet that's designed to do certain things to you. So you can see the enslavement. First contact with the White Walkers. I have a couple of slides, but I'm not going to show you the slides about the White Walkers. But I guarantee if you were to go online and look at some of the White Walkers and find some of the old pictures of Nelson Rockefeller, you're going to be like, damn, they look like conjoined twins. Are you feeling me? So look, human trafficking by the most heinous creature known on this planet. The creator of this three-dimensional slide that you see in front of you, I just referenced him. I cited him below. And if you guys don't know, this is basically what they call a tight pack for the ships during the slave passage that Kanye or Ye-Z ignorantly referred to, that we came over here on ships. I don't know what the brother was smoking or drinking or what level of his bipolar depression he was struggling with when he was originally talking about the dollar could be like his daddy. Brown, black, melanin-dominant people, you need to stop looking to entertainers, singers, and athletes for your direction about how you're going to navigate your life. You better pull up a book and get some insight into Marcus Mosiah Garvey. You better pick up a book because the book is there. It's not going to lead you around strange places that you might find with algorithms when you go online, because the algorithm may not take you to the facts. It may take you to where the algorithm has redirected you to go, so you will not find the facts. That's why one of the reasons when you go online to one of the most user-friendly portals to give you information, they tell you it's Wikipedia, which means different people can add a little stuff to it. But I always tell you, when you go online, remember, you are now dancing on Anansi's web, the trickster. So here's the colonialism. Look what they're doing to this brother. Colonialism. And I've been telling you all along, what did they use to colonize us? I know you see these crucifixes around these Jesuit priests and rubbing the head of the African and basically baptizing them in the ignorance of the misguided representation of the Orishas, which were captured in classic Catholicism. And they take our stuff, repackage it, and give it back to us. And then we don't recognize our stuff because they masquerade and show little nuances of things that we're familiar with. And they wrap us up, and we become one of my favorite lines in a poem I wrote many years ago called Spooks on Asphalt, the Walking Profile and Dead. They don't know any better because they believe everything vanilla people, white folk have written and ever said. And I call them Spooks on Asphalt because they are the walking profile and dead, also known as zombies. And they are dangerous. So religion binds you and blinds you to move like puppets on strings. I didn't say spirituality. I didn't name anybody's religion. I said religion binds you and blinds you to move like puppets on strings. Because I know some of you guys have been in a church when there was a black minister in there kicking it, modifying whatever books of the Bible he felt would be appropriate to get people to tithe in his church. And I'm not knocking the minister. I'm just saying, be accountable, brother. Be accountable. Because some of you don't realize that when the Temptations were talking about you make your own heaven and hell right here on earth, all you have to do is look at those grease spots in those parking lots around those mega churches, and you can see who's not able or who's not putting their money and keeping their vehicle in order because the man got them tithing and running to the ATM machine downstairs. And it's easy for them to say, I don't want to hear the money. I want money that's quiet, money that's folding money. Are you feeling me? Now I know you guys remember, what was his name? Was his name Treflo Dollar, the brother that had people to buy him a damn international jet to fly everywhere? Call his people, his associates and parishioners, wanted them to buy him another jet. All right. I'm not going to read this to you because I'm going to show it to you in a second. These books should be in your library. Ruled by Secrecy. Jim Mars has to be probably about 12 to 16 years old now. Ruled by Secrecy. And Controligarchs. It's not that you necessarily have to have the book, because I don't read half as much as I should, but they're pointing it out to you that exposing the billionaire class, their secret deals, and the globalist plot to dominate your life. Now you're talking about smooth operators and some serious thieves. Trust me, you're looking at them. And that is the cover of the book Controligarchs, right? Because you need to read something. And you need to act on what you've read. I always use this slide to let you know, because some people think they can go online and read what they want by actually putting a search engine in it and going online and getting it from the internet. Remember, the internet will guide you in dark places with algorithms. So when you go there, if you don't pay attention to what you're doing, you may find what you had on your mind originally to do might get erased from your memory while you're navigating on that internet. That's why I told you it's called a Nazi's web. You get there and it'll take you somewhere you had no intention of going. And how is it done? When we get inside of your head, I cracked a joke at the presentation that I was doing for you guys on Garvey's birthday. And I cracked a joke about a lot of brothers, we're not able to keep up with sisters when they start talking fast. Because we just want a sense of application. Like, what is it that you want me to do? What is it that I can help us get done? And they will bring up a thesis in a conversation, and you're trying to follow the topic. And when they finish with their thesis in the conversation, they may tell you, you ignored me, you're not listening. You're like, I'm trying to keep up with you, boo. I'm trying to keep up with you, but you had eight different themes in that paragraph about the one topic that you told me we were going to talk about. And I'm trying to follow which one is a priority. They're all priorities. You need to listen to all, but hold up. In order for me to do them, I need to have some bullets to execute a plan to get these things done. If you were listening to me the first time, you would have understood what I said the first time. And then you always do that. Remember when you did blah, 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 when we first started dating? And now you got to try. What the hell happened when we first started dating? Because you were trying to figure out whether or not you guys were going to do whatever you were going to do. I changed my mind now. And we stand there confused, befuddled, bewildered, like, what did I do? That's the problem. You didn't do anything. Well, I'm trying to follow you, boo. And then we'll take a break. So I'm going to go out and play a little b-ball, go down and shoot some pool. I might even go shoot some dice. I may go hang out with the fellas for a little while. And some of these women today would say, all right, open up your cell phone so I can monitor where you go. And brothers will be like, hold up, boo. All you got to do is leave it. I know where you went. Well, I'm telling you where I went. Nobody wants to be tracked like that. We don't track satellites like that. But you'd be surprised, a lot of women are doing that crap today. And rather than it drive brothers crazy, it will drive brothers away. So look at this. I'm showing you, see the brain? When you get really stressed, the part of your brain to make sense out of what's going on doesn't work anymore. Everything that's supposed to go here to be processed so you can figure out what to do and figure out how to act on it in the back, like how do you navigate your life, what kind of movements you should engage in. It's not going here because she's talking to you about some stuff you can't even fathom. So it goes straight down to the limbic system, the lower limbic system, and it goes down into you being quiet. And then she might say, oh, you ignored me? Baby, I just don't know what to say. You ignored me? And then if you say something without the right affective tone in your voice, oh, so you're just going to talk to me like that. And I'm not trying to stir up any chaos. I'm trying to say to you that you fail to understand that the system of racism and white supremacy will be all in your business, all in your house, 24 hours a day if you don't know how to leave that crap outside in the glove compartment of your car or leave it in your briefcase and don't be discussing that stuff in your bedroom and at your dinner table because it's going to screw up your appetite. And then she's going to be mad and you guys may not have any intimate time together. And you may go sit down and look at a movie or fall asleep because you're already tired or drink a beer or smoke a daggone joint because you just want to relax for a moment. And then she may come out there and now you're in deep relaxation mode and you're not in the mood for anything that she's saying right now. She could come by in a thong and you're like, baby, we don't just turn on like that. You feel what I'm saying? You have to warm us up too. I mean, you fine and all that. Oh, you're not interested in me anymore? You don't think I'm this, you don't think I'm that. And why am I telling you this? Because the people that can do the most harm to you are the people that are closest to you. Before we came online, we were talking about a misguided colleague of ours and how misguided colleagues will take all their personal business and lay it out online, forgetting the fact that when you're at war, if I'm on your 6 and you're on point and we got somebody on our flank at 9 and 3 o'clock and we like on recon, nobody needs to be upset with the people in the squad because somebody gonna run across a damn improvised explosive device and get blown to bits. And that's the way racism works. We're in a canoe trying to navigate these turbulent waters of racism, and somebody standing up saying, I thought this canoe was going to be a little bigger than this, and it's a little shaky while. You need to sit down and let the people that are familiar with canoeing to do the rowing and just be quiet. Don't be bitching while you're in motion. But we do that. And then we lose sight of the prize and we get caught up with our emotions and we don't make any progressive movement because we get on that spiral circle of nonsense, ignorant conversations about who did what, when they did it, and how somebody's treating you, and you fail to realize that indivisible, contrary to what you may believe, individual means that which cannot be divided. And so you have to be together and not be divided. And that's where those kangaroo courts come in. You can have somebody you love deal and say, hey man, I heard so and so and so went to court. And rather than you say, it's like, so what they trying to accuse him of, or what they're trying to say he did. But the average person not familiar with the English language will say, well, what did he do? What did she do? What did these people do that are walking the street that are getting snatched by these body snatchers? And they're finding out at least 65 to 70% of them haven't done a damn thing. And they should be able to walk around where they're going. And so when I show you this slide, I hope I have it in this series. I'm not going to take you through the dive on this now because I'm just telling you about the frontal lobes. But this is the slide I want to bring to your attention. America, a country that is truly falling apart, will annihilate you by any means necessary. This country is falling apart. And rather than this country admit that she's falling apart, that's why I'm reminding you that this great symbol of Ma'at, which is supposed to represent people being free from slavery, all right? That's what she was supposed to represent with the chains around her ankles, okay? But you can see they have blown a damn arm off here, and the American flag is basically being shredded because the average person thinks that the flag is being shredded means shrapnel or bombing and fire did it. You ain't got no government now. And I'm being deliberate in my digression to use ebonics. I could easily say, well, you don't really have a viable system of governance now in the United States of America. You ain't got no government now. If you drive through the city, you wonder if they ain't setting the stage up for encampments later once they piss people off enough to say they can actually implement martial law. And if you don't know what that means, that's worse than apartheid. Okay? And so I have passion when I talk to you about these things because when I say to you we're at war, I mean it. I really do mean we're at war. The sad thing about it is most of us that are educated are among the most preoccupied people with intellectual conversations that we don't even realize we're at war. Dr. Wilson said it for the longest. We're at war. Well, you know, Fran could be kind of really aggressive with her theories about the system of racism and white supremacy. Dr. Wilson told you, she warned you, she made it very clear to you. So don't get twisted and caught up thinking that the war that's being levied around you, that you're not part of the war. You're supposed to become the casualties in a body count related to the war. Because nobody cares about you. That's why I told you a little while ago, they're making a movie about what's happening to the animals, and they say the Ukraine and the Ukrainian Republic. They are talking to you about what's happening to those animals, an opiate drop in a movie about eating. And before you know it, we'll be discussing it. Those of us that are not discussing Cowboy Carter and Beyonce's last quote unquote concert, you feel me? And we all need to be entertained, but we don't need to be entrained in the entertainment that we're no longer thinking about the reality that we come back to when we leave those places where we purchase those tickets just to try to escape reality for a moment. So to remind us here again, when the ultra-rich members of the planet's billionaire club decide and determine your destiny, and I've already identified who they are, and I told you about what's going on with the project with Atlantic, and on, I think it's called Mother's Magazine, they have what's about to take place for 2026, because this dude is trying to create a set of guidelines in your country where you don't have any more elections. He literally is trying to do that. He already made people take exhibits out of the African Museum. Literally. Take them down. And what is he using for leverage? White mail, extortion. You're not going to get this money if you don't do what I say. And the money doesn't even belong to him. I still haven't been able to fathom, how do you get $1 billion from the District of Columbia government? And I don't profess to be an attorney, but I still have not been able to fathom, how did you pull that off? And right now he's bitching about he wants more than 30 days. Back to me telling you about the Democrats and the Republicans. Those wings are on the same bird. And you heard me crack a joke about the Congressional Black Caucus. Are they more than a fashion show now? Are you feeling me? And it's not that I'm trying to trash them. I'm saying, what are you doing? I don't want to hear somebody tell me later, affiliated with the Congressional Black Caucus, where they have basically done so many things that our voices aren't being heard. It's a whole group of you all. Y'all can speak up. Y'all can take out an ad in a major newspaper easily. You can give Sister Kathy Hughes a shout out and tell them you want some representatives to come on Radio 1 or her program and talk about this madness. But you're not. You have gone incognito Negro. Are you feeling me? But you'll see how personal it is when it's knocking on your doorstep and somebody comes up. Didn't they just snatch the brother from Bethesda that was on the Donald's list? I forgot his name, the Vanilla brother. And he said something that Donald didn't like. They sent the FBI to his house and basically went through his house and told him he had to come with them because he's basically been identified as a potential threat to national security. And they already took his security away from him. So what do you think they're going to do to the average brother that's living from paycheck to paycheck? Kangaroo Court. So let me drop these metrics on you. How much higher are black incarceration rates than our vanilla brothers and sisters? Look, that's the U.S. average. That means that includes everybody. All right? That's the U.S. average. But look at the breakdown when you process. These numbers at the end literally mean in all these states you see highlighted over here, the incarceration rate for black people is almost 12 times higher in Jersey and Wisconsin, all right, Connecticut, California. Look at these digits all along here, right? Even in North Dakota, where very few black people are, all right, 5 times greater. They're locking these people up. So let me show you some more metrics, all right? And remember, these data sets I'm pulling from 2021. This is 2025. So you can understand what I mean by these kangaroo courts. Because you don't get locked up and become incarcerated after you've been in jail unless you've been in court. Are you following me? Now check these out. Police disproportionately threaten or use force against communities of color. Look at what they do with black people. Check out the data. Per 100,000. Look how many are they snatching among black people. And in a little while, I'm going to show you the percentage of black people that reside in the United States. And look at other. And just in case you don't know, other really means a lot of the First Nation people, i.e. some quote unquote Native Americans and people that were here. So they're locking them up too. They've already exterminated them. And then next are your Latino brothers and sisters. And look at these vanilla people. They make up greater than 55 to 58% of the U.S. population. These people here make up less than 14% of the U.S. population. But look at how they are disproportionately, quote unquote, threatened by police, quote unquote, unnecessary force. And then look at how they are incarcerated. Look at the level of incarceration. These people make up about 14% of the U.S. population. These people make up about 19 to 20% of the U.S. population. These people make up about 55 to 60+% of the U.S. population. Some people say 68. But look at the frequency of them being incarcerated. And you know how many Inuit people are so-called Eskimos, Alaskan natives, quote unquote American Indians are still left on the planet. And look how they got them like locked up. What does that tell you, bro? Somebody has a plan back to these kangaroo courts I'm telling you about to systematically lock these people up. So let's look at it again. This is 2018, just before you had your pandemic. U.S. population by race and ethnicity. You see, they're telling you, you see the vanilla people here? 60%, 2018, they constituted the population. The Latinos, 18%, just like what I just told you. All right? And black people, 13%. Look at the Asians and the multiracial people. But these people make up 60% of the entire population. And I just showed you and shared with you the percentage of them that get incarcerated and locked up. What kind of crap is that? If that stuff is not by design. And this is a very graphic to the point in your face that you cannot ignore. You see, 1 in every 106 vanilla males age 18 or older is incarcerated. 1 in every 106. Latino, Chicano, your brown brother, 1 in every 36. See how they have them incarcerated? And they got 1 in every 15 African-American males incarcerated, and you make up less than 14% of the U.S. population. That tells me somebody's trying to get rid of you all. That industrial prison complex. Kangaroo Court, alive and well. And my favorite reminder, and this is one of my favorite reminders because it points out America, red, white, and blue. I actually added that large round coming from that 45 from that pistol, just so it could be graphically clear. I added this to that. And it says, America. You see the bricks, the walls? Any questions? The question is why? The 21st century, they've begun to dabble into our genetic material and do things to us. Hence, you see this person incarcerated behind the DNA strand here. And that's 21st century. And then the 20th, the 19th, and the 18th century, they were lynching brothers and sisters left and right. You remember strange fruit hanging from the tree, all right? What's the sister that did the song, To Be Young, Gifted and Black? And then Billie Holiday sang the song about strange fruit. And then 17th century, 16th, 15th, chattel slavery. They come at us from all angles, all the time, nonstop. I'm taking you places. Look, a black woman is 22% more likely to die from heart disease than a vanilla sister, 71% more likely to perish from cervical cancer, and 243% more likely to die from pregnancy or childbirth-related causes. I just told you they're locking the brothers up. The sister's not able to have babies. What does this tell you? They're coming from all ends. Here's another set of metrics from 2007 up to 2016. Let's look at the dark blue line. Look at the dark blue line. It's always higher pregnancy-related deaths by race and ethnicity. Look who's dropping off the planet from just having a baby, trying to deliver a baby. See, this is where they get skewed. They'll show you the total, and you go, this is what's happening throughout America. And then you don't see the data the way it really is. Look at what's happening with black women. And look at what's happening to First Nation people, the quote-unquote Alaskan Native people. Look at that bar line. Look at the line of people that these folk are passing. This is crazy. And then when you look at your vanilla brothers and sisters in where you see this yellow, this gold line, and when you look at it, all along, and the only reason that it's higher than them here for the total is because they included everybody, and so the data had to get skewed. And then when you look at the blue, the Hispanics, look at the Hispanics in pregnancy. That's one of the reasons why they're doing that crap with the borders and snatching them up. Because they're not telling you, but from their point of view, and my Latino brothers, brown brothers, Mexican brothers, descendants of the Olmecs and the Aztecs and the Incas, they don't know. They're snatching you up because from their point of view, you're having too many babies. And they got these brothers locked up, and the sisters are losing their babies when they're born, or they're losing they're being unlived, as some people say, when they have a child, and they are basically crossing over when the child is born. You think all these things I'm just throwing at you because I decided to put something together because I have a bone to pick with America? I don't have a bone to pick with America, because America is already a skeleton. She's living off of us. She is a dry bone sucking the life force out of anyone that's willing to be a gatekeeper, a bona fide straight up snitcher, a bona fide quote unquote passive aggressive person to literally keep other progressive thinking people from being able to be part of the equation. You don't know, you're self-destructing. Curtis Mayfield dropped it a long time ago. Uneducated fools from uneducated schools. And so I'm going to remind you, whether they smack a brother when they arrest a brother, they hit him in his groin. They hit him in his groin. They take that nightstick, they hit him in his groin. And you may not know it. Every time they want to knock the crap out of a sister, are you aware that they usually hit the women in the stomach? They hit the women in the stomach. They hit the brother in the groin, then they'll ring his bell upstairs. Because that excruciating pain is just like guys that know how to box. They might drop a kidney punch on you or hit you in your liver, and you let your guard down, then they go for the head. These people are very skilled at killing people. That's what they learned to do when they were in the Caucasus Mountains. They came out aggressive, and they gave you a thesis to live and navigate life. Two theses. One was, it's a dog-eat-dog world. Only the strong survive. Survival of the fitter. That's what they tell you. You didn't have to do that if you live near a riverway or the waterway and the islands where you had access to food. How many of you are aware that these things oftentimes are engineered by different governments? Any of you guys old enough to know during the time of the Vietnam War and immediately after the Vietnam War, you used to hear certain guys that have been to the Nam, usually E5s and up, they would say, are you guys familiar with cloud seeding? And you cloud seeding where basically you get a lot of rain in one environment and then the next environment you got a drought. And I won't tell you what we're doing now with our lasers and our satellites, because that damn show will get me in an ass load of trouble that nobody be willing to come and say, damn, what happened to Dr. Rasayon? Damn, man, what's going on with Koko, man? I didn't even know Koko used drugs, man. I heard he ran his ride off behind the Kennedy Center into the Potomac River, and they found a whole bunch of drugs in the boot of his car. Damn, I didn't even know Koko got high, man. Don't believe that shit. And when I start talking to you guys at another time, probably around holy day season, about Nibiru and the Africans that are associated with the people in continental Africa, you will understand why vanilla people would trip if they knew some of the really intelligent life forms are still watching them. So look at this is insane. Now I do want you to pay attention to this brother's face. Now he may be completely emaciated, and all you see is skin on his skeleton, but that brother is focused. He's focused. He's like, what the hell has happened to my family? And vanilla people don't believe in stuff like this to share with the public, but they practice it behind closed doors. You better learn how to talk to your ancestors. You better remember to find their names, because that day that you thought you would have gotten run over by their car or fell off the rails catching the metro because you were on your cell phone, and then you were in a car accident and everybody else got screwed up and you didn't leave a scratch on your person, you think that was just quote unquote by chance. Sometimes your ancestors will come to your aid, and then they will remind you sometimes, you know, I did that for you. Now what you gonna do for us? And I revisit this slide to share with you. We look at this crap and say, well, that's just the way it is. It's like it be like that sometimes. Now these folk are in line because they're being starved. I already told you about coltan in Central Africa. Shoot, on one shipment of coltan, there's enough monetary resources made available to make sure you don't ever have to see this in the continent. But thieves don't work that way. Any of you all remember a program used to come on American television called It Takes a Thief? There was a program that was a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio's character in it, and he was actually writing checks, pretending to be a doctor, pretending to be a damn pilot, all types of things. They made a movie about his skills at being such an incredible thief. And I always put this up to remind people, we wouldn't take this. If we saw this in America, it would be on CNN, MSNBC News. It would be on early morning news. It would be a special on what happened to these animals. But what's happening to these people? It might make the 3 o'clock news, just like you're not getting any news about those people in Gaza now, right? So I told you before, I'm going to remind you. Way back in the day, 1997, when they did Gattaca, but they did Moonraker before then. And Moonraker was all about mass population control, getting rid of melanin-dominant people, confusing the public, and having money. And so when I looked at Moonraker, I look at it every now and then. I don't see no damn brown people in this damn movie to be saved. All right? And they have them all here together because they call themselves setting the stage to create a superior race. Because they're shuttled from Earth to advance the human race. And they made the decision, even in the script of the movie, to tell you these are the people that we're interested in saving. And this is the ultimate instrument for population control. You do know we're at this very moment, we are genetically engineering our babies, right? They're genetically annihilating our babies and genetically engineering their babies. And I told you this is the same dude I mentioned to you before about the butterfly, did research the butterfly. And the whole theme and thesis about his books translate into total population control. And you can see top secret here. So the 21st century, they moved to a level of taking us from the face of the earth in ways that we would least expect. Because this particular book, A Journey Through Science and Politics, I showed you before, make people better as gods, a moral history of the genetic age. And remember, the eugenics crusade, what's wrong with perfect? Why isn't there an Asian kid up here? Why isn't there a little brown kid up here? Why isn't there even a high yellow dark Moor here from Italy? Remember when you mentioned Baba Senghor, you talked about the children of the dam, those little kids that just showed up? These folk, man, one day I'm going to talk to you guys about something called the time tunnel, because the brother asked me a question before when we were talking about Zamani and Sasa and how these people have begun to try to manipulate time. All you got to do is go online and read a little bit about the Hadron Collider, CERN, all right? You read about it. These people, this stuff that you think is science fiction, these folk are alive and well planning your demise. And these are visual reminders. I'm not going to go into details about them. I'm just going to give you the visual reminder. You may have heard over the past 5 years, people exhume bodies from different places in the Midwest and in Canada where they have finishing schools for the First Nation people. And they sent them to schools and they cut their hair and made them dress like this to say that they have been properly assimilated. And this is the way the United States was when indigenous people were here. You see all the land that was theirs, 1492. You see what happened to the land, 1820, 1840, 1860, and 1977. Because it was hard to get the data after 1977 because they put all the First Nation people on these damn reservations and gave them access to a casino. You couldn't get the data on them, right? Hard as hell to find the data. I used to get the data kind of frequently on one of my computers. That damn thing wound up with so many viruses in it, I was about to park penicillin on top of the damn computer. Because they don't want you to find the damn data. You open your computer up, it's got a virus in it. Now, you all know this one. I'm not even going to put words on it. Remember, 46, you see all that greenery? That's where those people are now that are being starved to death. They're weaponizing food. Look at it. See the green? Now see the yellow. And now they're trying to say that they even want to take this little slither of land, and claim it as their own. And what you may not know, some of the people that live in that part of the world, they're pissed off with the dude that continually wants to wage war on these people. But when you get the American news, you get a version of what's really going on in the world. Winston Churchill said this, the British dude back in the day, early stage of World War II. He said that the first casualty of war is the truth. And truth is intimately tied to propaganda. And so this is what's happening. Population control. They say this is a problem. This is a problem, and this is a solution. But let me remind you of Ani Marimba's work. Urugu is going to be self-checked. But I don't want to sit back and look at a body count that would be reminiscent of how we were all upset when we looked at Katrina. And anytime brown people were trying to get into stores to get food, they said they were looting and robbing people. And then when they showed you the image of the vanilla people, they say, well, they found some food in this store. They found some supplements that they could use to carry them over. But when the brown people and the black people were doing it, they were shooting at those people, whether you know it or not. They were saying they were robbing these stores. They were doing all these God-forsaken things. So I'm telling you, Urugu, Adharma Avidya, literally means individuals that lack a sense of spiritual connectedness to the human family. And so when you see my little thing here rolling out the woodwork with that AI work inside of himself, he's going to say this thing here produces a lot of carbon dioxide and there's not enough foliage around in the environment. So I'm going to be subject to oxidative stress. Or oxidative stress on a droid would be like rusting. In humans, it would be inflammation of various systems in the body. I'm going to have to twist Heru's arm one day and let Heru start dropping some of that detailed information on you about micronutrients, right? So let's have some comments and questions as we talk about the need for dezombification, which I've been giving you guys doses of all along, and letting you know that you really want to get the information. Don't think you're going to get it online. You need to start back reading books. Start back reading books. And I think, what was the brother name that played? He was the Nemesis and Black Panther. He did another version of Fahrenheit, I think 451, when they were burning books and people were forbidden to have books. You guys know his name because Steve Harvey's daughter used to have a relationship with him. What's his name? You know the brother. No, I'm talking about. He was the Nemesis in Black Panther. He was the one that went to the London Museum, so I'm going to take that off your hand.
Yeah.
Somebody will pull his name up. You can ask his device.
I think you're talking about Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, I'm talking about Michael B. Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Michael B. Jordan actually was telling people, because he had been trained by these folks, this is how you have to handle these people, because that's all they understand. So let's see if we can't have some comments and questions. But when I mentioned to you the second movie that he did about burning books, they were torching people's books, and they were penalizing the hell out of people if they had books.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I have so many books hidden. I have enough books to basically buy me a damn Bentley. You feel me? You know, if I were to sell my books in the right zone, I could go get myself a damn Bentley. Easy. I don't want a Bentley. Who wants a damn car that costs more than a house? And the petrol you put in the damn car, it drinks petrol like an alcoholic. You feel me? So you don't need a car like that. And you damn sure don't want no Ferrari in your driveway, because it's going to be like putting an orca in a swimming pool. You feel me? So people,
Wow.
we need to talk about dezombification.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see if people have any comments or questions so we can anchor some things, all right?
Woo. Wow.
You gotta talk to ancestors. You got to talk to them. Because remember when my boy went back, he actually jacked his elder ancestors and said, like, you made a mistake. You left him here, blah, 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 blah. But don't you all try that crap with your ancestors until you establish rapport. If you don't establish rapport with them, you start trying to tell them stuff, they're going to say, well, I just saved your butt the other day when you almost lost your leg. And I also figured out a way for your child to actually be in this college. And I was there talking to those people that were responsible for finances so that she could get in and have a scholarship. So you need to watch how you talk to me. Are you feeling me?
Mm-hmm.
And they might just decide they want to scare you a little bit too. You're talking to them, they might just decide to stand at the foot of your bed and say, what did you say? And if you're not healthy and you're not in line with them, they're going to scare the crap out of you. They won't intend to just say, I just want to let you know I'm here. Talk to some old people, they'll tell you about it. So I think I see the Baba's hand up.
Yeah, Congo. You got to unmute Congo.
Yes, a couple of things. There's about the average amount of people in prison in this country is 2 million. Sometimes it goes to 2.5 million, but and there's about 3 million people in the system. You know, they may be out on probation, but 2 million people are usually in jail. And they're usually in jail between the age of 18 and 40. That's the average. That's some are earlier, some are later. But that's the time that most people reproduce and have kids.
Absolutely.
Okay. And if you go, that it costs them about $50,000 per person. If you do that times 2 million, you're getting almost $10 billion. $10 billion is a $10 billion that the government pays for that, which is a complete waste of money. Especially when most of the people, when the laws were set up, they were supposed to be reformatory. And nobody comes out there reform, and they spend $10 billion every year. And sometimes when you're talking to racist people, they're all capitalists. So what do you have to say? Hey, do you know that you're wasting $10 billion every year? And sometimes they got to think about that. I say, if you have a crime problem, do you solve it with $10 billion a year? There's more than 10 million things I could do with $10 billion. But anyway, that's something that I always try to hit them on and show them that the solution that they're doing is not. But if you're racist, that's what they want. But but the thing is, it still allows a way to spend money.
But see, check this out, brother. It's real easy to spend money that you stole from other people, number one.
Yep.
It's even easier to waste money that you know you're going to fill the kitty up again by stealing from them a little later. It's just like when Donald went to Scotland to check on his golf courses and crap. He went there, flew that big damn Air Force One over there, and they had to have the beast with that big damn vehicle. The thing probably weighs about 6 damn tons, all the stuff they got on it to protect it, right? So I'm saying to you, it's like I was cracking a joke on this brother, and I made it very clear because I was helping this brother do something. And he kept asking for more and more and more. And I said, my brother, I don't think you realize the terrain for us to get back to the village. He said, what do you mean? I said, that's because we're carrying you. You feel me? We're carrying you. We're not able to stand on this edge while you sightsee. We're carrying you. And we're carrying you because we want you to get there safely. And so when these people are spending our money, our tax dollars, that's why I cracked Urban League, NAACP, all right? And probably to a lesser degree, the Black Bar Association and the Divine Nine, these powerful fraternities / Greek organizations on these major historic black colleges. We don't use our resources. Can anybody tell me? Pascal's used to be in Atlanta. There used to be one in Detroit, Michigan, and there used to be one by the Howard Inn. Somebody please tell me where there is a black hotel in the United States that's managed by black dollars, connected to a nice restaurant that's not serving people things that they should not be eating. Tell me where it is. We don't put our money back in the community. And I must admit, every now and then, I'll get a little lazy and I'll get something off Amazon. All right? You feel me? But I have special days in September. I ain't spending a penny at Amazon, right? Because some certain things need to happen. But what I'm trying to say to you is, those of us that try to be spiritually upright, sadly, I say probably about 70% of the people that try to be spiritually upright are misled by ministers in the pulpit that like to have their own private parking space and look at the fine honeys in the choir. And sometimes look at the fine men in the choir. Are you feeling me? So we're really in a strange situation. So the point that you made about the money, Let me tell you something, Congo. These folk are right now, by 2027, you're probably going to have about 4 major cities, and they're going to have cyborg slash robocops out doing some of their crap. And they're going to program them with algorithms to literally seek out people like me and you. And they won't cost as much money because they're going to get tired of these policemen doing stupid stuff in these precincts that's costing these folk a lot of money. That's why they lie about it. The boys in blue and khaki and green, whatever state you're in, we are expendable because they don't need us to prime the tobacco and pick the cotton anymore. They know that. And some of the most brilliant people I know, they snatch and put into my area, neuroscience. They put them into chemistry. They put them into engineering. Then they put them on a silo job, which means they don't get a chance to share internet technology with their people. They don't share that technology with their people. So let's talk, people. Let's start talking about what we can do around solutions. Please speak up. I'm going to be quiet.
Yeah, well, clearly, you know, we have quite a few people with us that haven't been on a Freedom Friday, and I want to open it up to them. I know Baba Mosey's in Guyana, but we got Brother Muhammad and Sister Deborah up in Canada. And first of all, the presentation was definitely awesome. It reminds me so much of what Garvey warned us about, extermination. But because of the hour, I want to make sure that some of our new people have an opportunity to ask questions to you, Brother Koko. And Congo, myself, and Haru, we all are close to you, and we can get to you. So Deborah, Muhammad, or anybody else that's kind of new, if y'all have any questions, because we, really for the presentation per se, I don't want to get off too far off the presentation, but certainly, Brother Koko, you did an excellent job reminding us of how important it is for us to not only tap into the ancestors, but to utilize the ancestral energy and to remember what Garvey said. And I know Mama Tendaya is with us as well. She's been constantly in the chat. But Sister Deborah, Muhammad, and others, I'm glad y'all joined us. Brother Muhammad is down in New Orleans. He's the president of one of our UNIA divisions. Sister Deborah is up in Canada, and her and my good brother, if he's with her, they're very active in the community, doing works. So do y'all have any questions, Muhammad and Deborah? I mean, if not, I'll move on.
Well, I would. This is Deborah, Sister Deborah. Thank you, my brother, for making an excellent presentation. All I would say is that this is really the work that we're doing. Everything correlates with what you're saying. Right now, we are working in justice here in Toronto, and perhaps we could spend some time talking about that, because all the statistics that you talk about is what we know already. That has been established. And then what we are looking for is like what kind of solutions we should implement. We're working at a grassroots level right now. We just had a meeting yesterday with the 12th Division, which is walking distance from where we live here in Toronto at Keele and Eglinton Avenue West, if you've ever been to Toronto. So basically, I mean, what you're saying is nothing new. We are aware of this situation. And I think, whether you want to call yourself Garveyites, Pan-Africanists, whoever, we are looking at what solutions can we implement as a people now to really move our people from the position that we know that we're in.
Excellent question.
I'm gonna let Brother Koko handle that, but certainly I can answer. But go ahead, Koko.
No, Baba, you go ahead. I'm the one been.
No, well, Deborah, one of the most important things is for us to connect with our ancestors and tap our spiritual energy, because that's something that we still have, but a lot of us are not utilizing it properly, which will not only bring us, closer together to be able to implement solutions, because there are people with various different solutions, but we lack power. We have to have power within the spiritual connections that we have, because a lot of people, like you say, some things, but that's all over the world. And what we're doing is now working in the UNIA per se, and the rehabilitating committee, is to bring all that together. So we're not just working in silos with our government. We're working with many institutions all over the place, particularly on the continent of Africa. So, but anyway, I'm gonna let Koko answer that more. And you and I communicate on a frequent basis, sister. But I think one of the most important we can do is to practice race first and to tap into our ancestral energy and to utilize that. And we're not doing that enough. We have too many people that want to stay in their own group following a Eurocentric paradigm. Like, for an example, we have this race first convention coming up in Baltimore. We have people coming from the UK and different places and around the United States who are clear that it's time for us to implement some of the plans that our ancestors gave us. And so there's many. And I'm not just talking about the Garvey ancestors. I'm talking about back to the 1700s, because that ancestral energy, and all the way back to ancient Kemet, all of that ancestral energy is powerful. And when we use it properly, we can change and do anything. But Koko, I really want you to elaborate
Okay, I'm
on that.
gonna jump on it, and thank you, Sister Dr. Because actually what you just raised is what I typically do from time to time when we're doing presentations. Because you have to plant seeds and tell people how to nurture them. So fundamentally, things that we can do, regardless of where you are, whether or not you speak in Patois, French, Arab, or Kiswahili, doesn't matter, Mandinga or Igbo, Yoruba, food and your music. You have to take control over your food, because your food carries your cultural signature. And when I say food, I'm not talking about some of these misguided Negroes that live in the United States thinking that there's something called soul food. All right? I'm talking about food that's alive. That doesn't mean you got to juice every day, but you need to also learn how to eat seasonally. You need to learn how to, believe it or not, brown and black people need to learn how to eat more food that didn't have parents, okay? And I'm not trying to tell you got to be a vegan or vegetarian, but because of the kind of toxic crap that they put in food, and Canada is a little bit more in line than the United States is in terms of putting toxins and crap in their food. But you really got to tune into what you're eating and to eliminate white flour, white sugar, white
Brother,
milk.
you're speaking to the converted here. When it comes to the food, we're on that.
Yeah, but let me finish amplifying my point. My point is because food has consciousness, because yes, what can we do? And you said, what can we do? And that's the irony of it. Oftentimes the conscious people are in the room, and then we go back and we hang around the people that lack consciousness. So we have to make them aware that just because I'm having this food, I'm not trashing your food, but you're not going to taste my food so much that I don't have any left. So we have to teach these people. It's called akaria. You teach by example, the food and the music, right? And one of the fundamental things that Dr. Wilson always talked about, we need to start talking to each other. You might be Hebrew Israelite, like you were alluding to a little while ago. Somebody else could be Buddhist. Somebody could be Taoist. Somebody could be diehard Catholic, Christian. We need to get past all these isms and say, where is your spirituality? Like Baba Senghor was saying, your spirituality allows you to align with your ancestors. So the food, the music, and we need to learn how to talk to each other. Learning how to talk to each other means I know how to show you respect. Because if I demean you by saying, what you doing wrapped up every morning, going to church, getting all blah, 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 talking about you got Jesus in you and blah, blah, blah. You remember that scene in the movie Malcolm X? Spike Lee did, and Malcolm was he did a silhouette that were on the train, and she said, Jesus will protect you. And you saw Malcolm like just went into that ghost zone of like, yeah, I don't think that's gonna get it, sister. So we have to watch what we eat, the music that we're listening to, and beyond that, we need to pay attention to what we're wearing. We can't run around wearing what's in style and in vogue and put on African garments just for a particular time of the year. You need to live that stuff, and you need to put on garments that are alive. Cotton, linen, silk, ramin. You can't run around in Dacron and polyester and think your chakra's gonna work.
So, Brother Muhammad, I want if you have anything you want to share or ask my brother. I know where you are. Brother Muhammad happens to be rebuilding in New Orleans, Louisiana, where there were more divisions of the UNIA ever. And not only that, he's doing a lot of work down there. So, Brother Muhammad, did you want to share anything real quick?
Basically, I was kind of vibing with Sister Deborah because, the presentation was beautiful, but you're preaching to the choir, brother. We pretty much know the problems, and there's only one question: what we gonna do about it? That's the question, and y'all have already partially answered that. The only thing I wanted to add to that is that, I was I'm getting grounded back into UNIA, and I was hoping that at some point politically, we can make a big push for those of us who are still here. I know some of us are repatriating to the continent. I've given it a lot of thought, but to uh, be recognized as a special status. The one thing about the natives, some people call them Native Americans, some people call them First Peoples, but it's one thing that they are recognized as nations and they are recognized as a separate people.
Yeah.
But yet we allow these white boys to lump us into, immigrants, and we ain't no immigrants, and not allow for the special circumstances that we have endured. And as Mario Bedelli has said many, many years ago, when we were so-called free from slavery, we were never given the option going back home, getting some other landmass, or staying and emerging into America. We were never given a plebiscite. These brothers are very strong on that, to determine what we actually wanted to do. So by international law, we have all our rights have been just run over like by a Mack truck. You speaking of the Kangaroo Courts, it's been like that ever since we've been here. But one element I think we should add is that we should be lobbying as strongly as possible from every possible angle to be recognized as a separate, different people with a different legal status as long as we're on this soil.
Okay. By the way, did you hear me when I said over and over again, what's happening with the Congressional Black Caucus? What's happening with the Urban League? What's happening with the NAACP? I started off by pointing out that the Garveyites are on point. I even cracked a joke about the number of people that we saw. So ironically, we're saying the same thing. My thesis is literally, if people don't have consciousness, they're asleep. And if they sleep, they're gonna walk around in a trance thinking somebody else is gonna do stuff. That's why I said, let me put these people on blast. You feel me?
So let me jump in here too, because I think it's important for us to recognize these Freedom Fridays are designed to provide education. And if you look in the chat, Mama Tendai may want to say something, but we are working not only to educate and remind ourselves, we are broadcasting worldwide right now on Facebook, and we are striving to reach the masses, particularly young people. So, but anybody that's in the Zoom that's got this thing, sometimes some of the subject matters might be things we're familiar with, but it's a whole lot of people that learn from Freedom Fridays. And I want to stress that we are reaching out to the population of African people. And that's what Freedom Fridays are all about, that the Woodson Banneker Jackson Bay Division 330 does. And yes, we're all about solutions, but we're also about providing basic education to brothers and sisters. Right now, I'm in DC, and right now, y'all, the National Guard are on the street, FBI, we have 32 police forces, and they are raising terror in the streets of Banneker City, Washington, D.C. right now. So that's why we chose this particular topic, so we could show brothers and sisters. It's not new, but it's hitting the street right now. And a lot of our brothers and sisters, as Brother Koko has said, are very afraid. The community is very afraid. So y'all that are in New Orleans and Canada need to know what's happening in the nation's capital right now. The so-called capital is designed to what they can do here, they intend on spreading all throughout North America. So this is an opportunity for us to educate and to elevate people. Mama Tendai, did you want to kick in? Talk about this education. I see you in the chat, Mama Tendai, because we are way past the time that we wanted to go, but I did.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I put the stuff in the chat. So
yeah, but everybody's not reading the chat. So please, if you wanted to chime in on what we were saying before we wrap up tonight, I was opening it up for you because you being the Minister of Education of the UNIA, Brother Muhammad, I don't know. Yeah, I think you have met Brother Muhammad, but I don't think Sister Deborah's familiar with some of the things that we're doing at all in terms of educating young people. We just finished the 67th International Convention where we actually had young people between the ages of 12 and 18 that were being nurtured. And we also had Brother Koko there do a presentation. We also had the sponsors of the Race First Convention. There's never been a Race First Convention held. It's going to be held in Baltimore. So, and that's pulling together all kinds of groups across the country that understand where we are right now. So I just wanted to stress that because, no pun intended, but solutions are being manifested. And the more we come together, the more we can learn about the solutions that are out there that everybody has. But if we don't come together spiritually, we're not going to have the power to execute the solutions that individuals are having in their area so that it can become a global phenomenon of things. Also, we have brothers and sisters on the continent that tune into this through Facebook. So I just wanted to make it clear. From time to time, we have people from the Rasayon states that are here with us on Freedom Friday. Mama Tendai, please go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you see in there, that one of the things that I listed is that education is one solution. And we have to educate in many different ways.
Right.
When the brother was talking about the symposium that we did with the young people, one of our younger folks, she did a workshop on music. And what they first did, though, was to show that we are energy. And they used an energy ball to show how it lights up in our hand, you know. By doing, I usually do this to have people feel their energy so that they know that they have it. That's your energy, that's your spirituality. But they used the energy ball and passed it around so that the students would understand that they were energy. Then they did music. They had them to choose one of their favorite songs. And then they pulled it up on the computer so that they could actually see what the words were, so that they could deal with it other than just the beat, because they end up saying things that they normally wouldn't say because the beat of the music entrances them. But their entrancement is because we are spiritual beings. But anyway, what they did was to have the students go through it, and they developed a rubric basically, so the students themselves could choose what was positive and what was negative, and how that would influence them going forward in terms of their selection for music.
Right.
So,
I'm sorry.
Back to my thesis. Remember when I said about music?
Yeah, exactly.
And for the record,
right.
Open up. Deborah, you opened it up nicely when you pointed out. It's like what we're going to do, how we're going to apply this stuff.
And so I'm just suggesting, you know, that's one of the ways in terms of dealing with it, because I'm always focused on the youth, because my time is coming for my transition, and I need to make sure we've got some things accomplished here on this ground before I roll out of here, or else all my years of Pan-Africanism will have been in vain. And as Baba had said, in terms of us working together, I think we also have to look at the fact, because I still, even at my age, I still work with HBCUs, but I work as a consultant, so I won't be so frustrated by the internal workings that Dr. Koko talks about. And when I'm working with them, one of the things that I have looked at is that these multinational corporations are coming after our children through scholarships and through internships and so on and so forth, where they can be able to utilize their brilliance and help them to develop the technologies without them even recognizing it. So we're building our own prisons, basically, of our mind because of our youth involvement in developing the next AI and how it's going to function and so on and so forth. I'm sure Dr. Rasayon, when he shows you how the internet and all of that sort of thing, how it affects the brain and whatnot. So reaching out to our children in the many different ways, but giving them practical ways of being able to develop things, because we lost them, I think, in terms of them understanding spirituality, unless we can show them how it works.
So we're gonna have to wrap up, but let me add to what Mama Tendai just said is so important, because when we say spirituality, and I know Professor Koko always incorporates that, we're talking about the energy. We're talking about energy, music. Mama Tendai mentioned music. That's so important. Coming up in September, there's a new music genre that's going to hit the stage that's designed to wake people up particularly young people, into the type things they should be doing rather than music that will destroy them, because that is what Yurugu's been doing. And it's going to be called, and I'm just giving y'all a heads up. You're talking about solutions. This is a serious solution because you're going to hear about it all over the world, and it's going to be called spoken dub. And it's very important. It's manifesting in New York on the 30th of this month, and then it's going to be here in DC. Then it's going to Jamaica. Then it's going to Kenya, and it's called Spoken Dub. And it's going to be everything we're talking about incorporated in good music with a spoken word poet, Brother Haru Foraiata, originally born in Ghana, along with other people. It's designed to reach people out there that may not get in tune spiritually, like Mama Tendai and I were just talking about. That's very important, because communication, as Brother Koko was saying, we don't talk to each other, we don't vibe, but we all dance and we all move. That energy is spiritual power. I call it blacktricity. We could go on and on and on, but I really thank you, Deborah. I thank you, Brother Muhammad. And please don't make this the only time. We do Freedom Fridays every 2 weeks, and various topics that we deal with. Brother Koko happens to be one who comes to us frequently, and the topics vary. But anyway, brother Koko, because of the night, and I know Baba Moses in Guyana, he can't close it out. But I think some of the division people will be upset with me if we continue to go. Brother Heru, do you want to chime in on solutions real quick? Brother Heru.
It's either too expensive or it's like, why even borrow?
Yeah.
Hey, Ru?
Solutions come into play because you have to understand is that population all have frequency. Just by the spoken word and thoughts has
if this
Can everybody mute? Can everybody mute for a minute? So while Haru is speaking, Haru happens to be not only the tech person, but he is an engineer. And I know he has something he can share in terms of solutions right now that are very important as we wrap up. Brother Haru?
Well, it all comes down to words of action, thoughts of action, subject now.
Move your hand from your mouth, please.
Hello?
No, that's not him talking, Deborah. Haru, you don't have your camera on, Haru. Go ahead.
I can't find my camera somewhere in the.
That's Congo you're talking about, Deborah. That's not the person talking. Brother Haru is a technical support. Go ahead, Haru.
I can't hear that well.
Well, it basically comes down to two things. One is information for empowerment, information for warfare purposes. And you have to understand is that in communication, both the spoken word, the written word, and also how they codify the laws to control behavior. We did get Dr. Francis West Wells about the 9 activities, people activity. All those actions that they have controls the psychology of behavior. And we had to understand that our ancestors have algorithms in the past, our cultural and spiritual systems to mitigate those deviations from the norm of our culture. So it's really critical that we study what was done in the past, look at the patterns that they use to maintain the cultural continuity, as well as to break the chains of social control through neocolonialism, or which I call cognitive colonialism these days. So we have the solutions. We just have to go back and just actively implement those algorithms to reestablish the environment and this based upon our culture and spiritual tenets.
Okay.
Well, let me just punctuate. I want to say one thing.
No, you wrap up, Koko.
Brother Muhammad and Sister Deborah, you guys absolutely planted a seed to let us know how we need to bloom, and we welcome that. We appreciate that. It's 100% invited. And if you look at the bottom of the screen, you might see my email address and my website. It has a number that you can reach me on. And I say that not like I. That way we can go to the next level, because you guys got one presentation, and these presentations in a series. That's why you keep seeing designification and the summary about the music and the food, because we're on the same page. But like there was something that you do in the military. You always do recon, right? You find out where your resources are to do certain things. Then you come up with a plan of execution and application. And my thesis is always application. That's why I started off about it's the food and it's the music. And as the Bible would tell you, when the presentation I was privileged to do this past weekend for God's birthday, I opened up with music, opened up with spoken word, with chants from Native Americans. So, and because you don't have the presentation that I've done about what a human is in terms of electromagnetic being, I just want you to know we're on the same page. We welcome what you said 100%. And I have relatives that were connected to Liberia in a bloodline when Liberia decided to leave this joint. And I have my family, well, I won't even go into that, but the point I'm trying to say in a nutshell is we have to come together, like Kwame Ture said, have an organization and lay out the scaffolding of what we want to address. And we can identify specifically things that we know that are critical to be addressed. And it's nothing more important than brown and black people than food. And when I say food, I mean water as well, right? So your food and your music and the company you keep. So it's my treat, my joy, and I always look forward to doing this. Matter of fact, it feeds me.
And let me also say this: y'all, both you, Muhammad and Deborah, and anybody else that may not know, all the presentations of Freedom Friday for the last 3 years or more are listed on the New Black Learning channel on YouTube. And every presentation that Professor Koko, and believe me, all of his presentations are there. And you can see what we're basically saying, because everything is driven by a topic. And because of the nature of what's going on right now in Banneker City, that's one of the reasons why this particular topic tonight was chosen. And so I just wanted to make it clear. And not only that, Professor Koko is a professor, and he can't share some of the things that he shares with us at the university, or he would not be there. So the fact of the matter is, this is kind of underground. Even though we're putting the information out there and we say good trouble, we know that some of this information is not accessible to a lot of people. We know this, but our people need to understand that some of us know our cosmic assignments, know what we're called to do. But if you're not connected to the ancestors, and if you're not connected from Canada to New Orleans to LA to Chicago to the Sayo states to Nigeria to Ghana to South America, we lack power. That's why this Race First convention is coming up, that's being not organized by the UNIA, but a youth group that does everything solution oriented in Baltimore, from grade little children on up to adults. It's called the PLM, and you can go to the website plm95.org and see exactly what I'm talking about. And they are one group out of many that will be at the Race First conference, bringing solutions to the table, so we collectively bring those solutions out and push them out in decrees out to the world. So there is a lot of work going on, but not enough, or we would not be in this situation. And thanks to the Right Excellent Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, his vision, and so many of the ancestors that came before him, there are formulas and ways and means to connect and get their power. Because we know in death, there's more power than it is even in the physical nature. I know that for a fact. Our ancestors have finished their physical living, but they are working their mojo in the ancestral realm, and we need that power. And Garvey said, count on him to be the real Marcus Garvey and to return with countless millions of ancestors. That's the power that Yurugu is afraid of. That's the power that can change things and get us back. So please visit those websites, and always go to the New Black Learning channel on YouTube and visit some of, and it's not just Brother Koko. We got plenty other Freedom Fridays, and mostly all of them are focused on various different solutions of what we can do. And this is just one division of the UNIA, by the way. We have other divisions that have things like, Brother Muhammad, you know exactly what I'm saying in terms of what you're doing in New Orleans. So, but what I'm saying is, we need to be moving more now to consolidate and close ranks. So Baba Mosi right now is in Guyana. Him and Congo is the vice president of the division. I just happen to be a member of the division, but as the first assistant president general, I want to make sure that we're all on it clear. We're on the same page, but we don't come together enough. We don't know. Deborah, I know all the great work y'all are doing up there. I'm very clear, but everybody else might have just met you. I'm very clear what y'all doing in Toronto, because you and I, we've been vibing for a while, but everybody may not know. And so That in itself is part of the solution. We need to know from each other of what we're doing. And Brother Muhammad, you didn't make the convention, but I know you did work down there in New Orleans, and I know you're working. So anyway, I have to honor the time. We've gone at least an hour over, at least about 50 minutes over the time. So Brother Koko, thank you for again a powerful presentation. And thank you, Deborah, for coming in. It's always good to see more brothers and sisters that's doing great work come in. And all we can say is one God, one aim, one destiny,
Destiny,
one
one
Africa. Yes. Thank y'all. So
Yeah.
you could take us away, Brother Heru.